Sponsored by Alcoholics Anonymous, a socially acceptable rehab.
Varsity Blues.
Pee-wee hero to nearly high school failure, this is the story of Shane Salonitre.
I met Shane at the beginning of the school year. I heard he was on the football team, but I just figured he was the water boy or something like that.
I didn't really know Shane, but Matt told me he played football in high school, and I knew he was playing here at Worcester State. But I didn't really know much about his problem.
I played Pop 1 of football with that kid Shane. The kid was like 4'9". I was like 4'3" on a good day. In heels. Go to practice every day, smile on my face, look over, there's Shane. Yeah, okay, here we go again, this kid. I'd run to practice, first play of the game, boom, stiff arm to the floor. Next play, chop block. Every day was just a different story. The kid was a douchebag. Never thought I'd become friends with him.
Shane was a Pop Warner superstar, and the expectations going into high school football were enormous.
First day of ninth grade practice, the coaches had me up on like a pedestal, like I was some sort of god, and I mean, quite frankly, I wasn't.
After a few practices, coaches noticed that Shane had developed a bad work ethic and was benched for his ninth grade season.
People always told me I was the best, and after a while, I mean, I just started to believe I was the best. So when I got to school ball, not being the star anymore, I mean, really hit me hard. It was rough.
I'm Shane's cousin, and ever since I've known him, me and him have been very close. So close that after every practice, he would call me, and he'd be very upset because he wasn't the star anymore from Pop Warner to high school football, which I explained to him, like, it's a big difference. He became very upset and eventually started crying occasionally on the phone, and that was very, very girly-like of him. I even called him gay for it.
I met Shane's cousin when he came up to visit, and he asked me about his problem. I didn't really know what he was talking about because I didn't know about Shane actually having a drinking problem. But he came up, and he basically told me everything. He said it got pretty bad in high school, and I was kind of worried, but kind of came as a shock to me because I had never really even seen him drink that much in college. It was weird.
I'm not going to say that I introduced Shane to alcohol because I look like the bad guy, but I kind of did. Through Shane, I was introduced to James, who I met maybe a couple years back. Us three became like the three amigos. We did everything together. We looked for girls together, played video games, did some things I'm not really going to talk about.
So I was introduced to that kid Jason. Guess he was Shane's cousin or something. I don't know. We always used to hit him up when we needed alcohol. Whenever we needed it. I never really liked him.
The first time we drank, I stole some vodka from my parents. Shane loved it. He wanted more and more, but I told Shane, no, you can't have any more. So then he actually pushed me, ripped the rest of the vodka, and we had it in a water bottle out of my hands, ran away, stripped naked, and then poured the rest of what was in there over his naked body. It was weird.
The first time we drank, holy shit. That's a story to tell your grandkids. We're drinking, takes a little vodka out of his dad's shelf. I look over, Shane's chugging that thing like there's no tomorrow, naked on the floor, pouring all over his body. I've never seen something that small.
I mean, yeah, I drank a little bit, but who didn't? It was high school. I mean, when they told me I was an alcoholic, it really hit me hard. And I didn't really know how to handle it.
During Shane's 10th grade season, he was benched again due to continued poor work ethic.
Being benched the whole season was really tough on me. I mean, walking through the hallways, I felt like everyone was just staring at me. Just really embarrassing.
I saw a picture of Shane recently. It was a picture of him between his 9th and 10th grade season when he was in high school, and he just looked really out of shape. It did not look good at all.
I went to almost all of Shane's games, more of a support factor because the kid never played, but I really just went so after the game I could see how much alcohol he drank. The kid drank so much.
Shane's cousin Jason would always tag me for the game, like, yo, do you want to go to the game with me? No, bro, I don't like you.
After the games, he would just be devastated that he didn't play, even though there was no chance the kid would play. He would just keep drinking and drinking. It became a problem, almost, to the point where I started hanging out with him. Like, it was real bad.
After I talked to Shane's cousin, I approached Shane, asked him what happened. He told me after his 10th grade season, it was hard for him to handle being benched in high school.
I first noticed Shane had a problem in home ec. We were sitting there making buttermilk pancakes. Oh, shit, money, they're so good. Then I look over and he's pouring some peppermint schnapps or something into that pancake mix. I'm telling you, after my third helping, I was hammered. Couldn't even walk for the rest of the day.
Starting junior year, Shane would now be moving up to the varsity level.
The first time I met the varsity coaches, they basically just told me straight out, we're not going to take the funny business anymore, Shane. No more pro work ethic. You got to come to our workouts and you got to work hard. If you want to be a member of this team, you have to do it just like everyone else.
I was talking to Shane's cousin about him in high school and his drinking problem and everything, and he said he had a poor work ethic. But I've gone to the gym with him here at Worcester State, and the workouts he does are pretty tough. And he said he was doing those back in high school. I don't know how he was going to be, how he could do those while he had a poor work ethic.
For the first time in my life, I was actually committed to football workouts, and I was going every day with my coach. I became really close to him that off season, and days where I didn't even want to lift, he would push me to lift even harder, and those would be the best workouts.
By the end of Shane's offseason, he was in great football shape.
By the end of the off season, I felt good. Everything was going good for me.
By Shane's 11th grade football season, Shane saw significantly more playing time than he did his last 2 seasons.
At this point in my life, I didn't even have the urge to drink alcohol anymore. I mean, being in such good shape, it really just made me eliminate it from my life, which was sort of weird with how big of a factor it played in my life.
Shane wouldn't believe me when I would tell him what I felt about our friend James. James would always try to make him drink more, try to make him eat more. Wouldn't benefit Shane, especially Shane would always come and cry to me, like I mentioned before, about not being a good football player. But that kid James is always out to get him.
I used to love Fat Shane. We used to chug beers till we couldn't even stand. Then we'd call a taxi, get some Taco Bell, pig out. Then his coach put him on some stupid diet. That was the fun days.
I appreciate the fact that he stopped drinking and he didn't let all of his hard work go to waste. He turned himself around when he stopped, and it showed.
Shane ended his 11th grade football season in the best shape of his life, but then he hit another standstill.
Jason, his cousin, kept telling me that in high school he just stopped working out, and he told me he got really scared for him because he thought he was going to relapse back into alcohol, and he just got real lazy, stopped working out. He thought he was the best. He thought he was better than everybody else. He thought he didn't need to work to get where he wanted to be, but that's not the case.
I started to get out of shape fast, and halfway through the off-season, the coaches actually started to notice.
Shane was put on an extremely strict diet and was required to lift with his football coach 6 days a week.
Notice Shane doesn't like to eat fast food. I thought he just didn't like it. Turns out that he just doesn't want to be reminded of that time in his life.
By the end of Shane's 11th grade offseason, Shane was back in football shape and was finally ready to be a starter on the varsity football team.
When I found out I'd be starting on defense on the varsity level, I was really excited, and I swore to myself I'd never quit on myself or the team ever again.
Shane finished his senior season starting all 10 games and receiving the Comeback Player of the Year award.
When I first started getting recruited by Worcester State, I never really heard of it. I thought it was some small school that kids that couldn't get to real colleges would go to. But after I did some research, I found out it was in this thing called the Princeton Review, which I never heard of, so I thought it didn't mean anything. But apparently Massachusetts is something sort of important.
Yeah, I've known about Worcester State ever since I was little. I grew up not too far from here, but I can understand it's a small school. I can understand how Shane wouldn't have heard about it or didn't know much about it.
I committed to Worcester State about 2 months after being recruited. And when I first told all my friends, they were sort of shocked with the whole situation because none of them have ever heard of Worcester State. They even made fun of me saying that my main opponent would be Helen Keller School for the Deaf and Blind. And it was funny, but I've never played a blind person in football. I just assume they can't play it.
After playing 2 games at Worcester State, Shane was diagnosed with mono.
When I found out Shane was going to school in Massachusetts, I think it's basically a 4-year community college named Worcester State. Well, when he left, I got into some serious drugs. Cocaine, crystal meth, heroin, PCP, angel dust, you name it, I did it. Then I get a call one day, Shane's coming back because he has mono. I was happy than a fucking kid in a candy store.
The doctors recommended I go home when they found out I had mono because they were nervous that it was spread throughout the school, and that wouldn't be good.
While Shane was gone, it was kind of boring because he's usually the life of the floor. He was gone for a month with his mono, but glad he's back.
I came back to school about 4 weeks into the school year, and even though I was really behind, I was fortunate I had good teachers like Miss DeJong. Am I saying that right?
No, it's Miss Day Young.
Miss DeYoung. And they were very good with me catching up at work. And hopefully I pass.
I'm happy that Shane's back from his sickness. Now that I know about his alcohol problem, I understand why he never wanted to drink.
Shane is currently completely recovered from mono and is 8 months sober.
If you're not drunk, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to get fucked up. Let's do it. Ha ha. LMFAO, you know it. Let go. Yeah. All of the alcoholics, where you at? Let's go. Hey. Hey.
They tried to make me go to rehab.